The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the small town of Ridgewood. Nestled between rolling hills and thick forests, it was the kind of place where nothing exciting ever happened. The loudest noise most days came from Mr. Peterson's. Old tractor sputtering down the dirt road or kids laughing as they chased each other around the park. But on this particular afternoon, everything changed. Emma Carter stood outside her modest home, leaning against the wooden fence that bordered her backyard. She had been watching clouds drift lazily across the sky when she heard a deep rumble that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. At first, she thought it might be thunder, but the sky was clear blue. Then the ground beneath. Her feet began to vibrate softly, like a distant drumbeat growing louder with every passing second. Curiosity pulled her forward, and soon she wasn't alone. Neighbors poured out of their houses, pointing upward as a massive object descended from the heavens. It was sleek and metallic, shimmering faintly as if it were made of liquid silver. The craft hovered for a moment before touching down gently in the middle of the town square, sending a gust of wind rippling through the trees. People gasped and shielded their eyes as light spilled from its edges. Illuminating the entire area, among the crowd was Daniel Brooks, a tall man with broad shoulders and calloused hands from years of working as a mechanic. He had just returned from fixing a broken-down truck when the commotion started. Unlike many others who gawked in awe or fear, Daniel moved closer to get a better look. His sharp eyes scanned the ship, searching for any sign of danger or opportunity. When the hatch opened, silence fell over the crowd. Out stepped creatures unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Their bodies were tall and slender, with translucent skin that glowed faintly under the sunlight. Strange symbols floated around them, projected into the air like holograms. One of the aliens stepped forward, its voice resonating not from its mouth but directly inside everyone's minds. "You have been chosen," it said simply, though the words carried an unmistakable weight. "Bring your representatives." No one moved at first. The townsfolk exchanged nervous glances, unsure what to do. Finally, a man named Liam Harper, a burly farmer with a loud voice and even louder opinions, stepped forward. "What do you want?" "With us?" he demanded, his tone brimming with both anger and fear. The alien tilted its head slightly, studying him. Without answering, it turned its gaze toward the rest of the crowd. Slowly, more people emerged. Olivia Meyer, a no-nonsense journalist known for her quick wit and sharper tongue. Emma, whose quiet presence somehow caught the alien's attention, despite her lack of bravado. And finally, Daniel, who walked up calmly, but with a readiness in his stance, as though prepared for anything the aliens gestured for them to follow, and without further explanation led the four humans aboard the ship. Inside, the walls pulsed faintly, giving off a soft glow, and the air felt strange, not cold, but not quite warm either. It was as though the very atmosphere vibrated with energy. The group was ushered into a large chamber where several aliens waited, their glowing eyes fixed intently on the newcomers, for hours. The humans endured tests designed to evaluate their physical and mental capabilities. Liam struggled to keep up during tasks requiring precision, his hands too big and clumsy for delicate work. Olivia fared better intellectually but grew frustrated when the aliens ignored her questions or refused to clarify their cryptic instructions. Daniel, however, excelled in scenarios involving strength and strategy, earning approving nods from the aliens whenever he completed a task efficiently. Emma, on the other hand, appeared to falter constantly. When asked to solve puzzles, she hesitated, taking far longer than anyone else. During physical challenges, she stumbled, unable to match the agility of her companions. Even simple tasks, like navigating mazes or reacting to simulated threats, left her flustered and visibly shaken. The aliens watched her closely, their expressions unreadable. After one particularly poor performance, one of them leaned down slightly, its voice echoing in everyone's minds. "Weak link," it declared, its tone dismissive. "Unworthy," Emma didn't argue. Instead, she nodded quietly and stepped aside, allowing the others to continue. Her calm acceptance only fueled the aliens' disdain, and they quickly dismissed her as irrelevant to their evaluation. Daniel noticed how poorly the aliens treated Emma. While they praised him for his efforts, they barely acknowledged her existence, beyond mocking remarks. Despite her apparent failures, there was something about her demeanor that intrigued him. She never panicked, never complained, and always observed everything around her with a quiet intensity. He couldn't help but wonder if she was hiding something or biding her time that evening. After a long day of trials, the humans were given individual quarters aboard the ship. Each room was small but functional, with smooth walls that emitted a faint hum. Emma sat cross-legged on the floor of her room, staring at the glowing symbols projected onto the ceiling. They shifted and changed constantly, almost hypnotic in their movement. She reached out a finger, tracing invisible patterns in the air. Her brow furrowed in concentration. A knock at the door startled her. It slid open to reveal Daniel standing there, looking hesitant. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice low. Emma nodded, motioning for him to sit. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel broke the silence. "You okay? Those aliens?" "They're treating you pretty badly," she shrugged, offering a faint smile. "It doesn't matter what they think. Not yet, not yet." He echoed, raising an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Emma hesitated, then leaned closer. "Sometimes weakness is just patience waiting for its moment," she said softly. Her words lingered in the air, leaving Daniel more puzzled than before. As the night wore on, Daniel found himself replaying Emma's cryptic statement in his mind. There was something about her, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. Whatever it was, he sensed that she was far more than the aliens believed her to be. And as the days stretched on, he realized that the true test had only just begun. Little did they know, the aliens' decision to bring these 4 humans aboard their ship would set into motion events that would challenge not only their survival, but also their understanding of strength, courage, and the power of observation. The next morning, the humans were summoned back to the testing chamber. The aliens wasted no time, launching into a new set of trials designed to push them further than before. This time, the challenges were more intense and required not just physical strength, but also quick thinking and teamwork. Liam, Olivia, Daniel, and Emma stood side by side as the aliens explained the rules, or at least tried to. Their instructions came in fragmented images and symbols that flickered in the air, leaving the group to piece together what was expected of them. Liam stepped forward first, his confidence unwavering despite the previous day's setbacks. He grabbed a metallic rod from a nearby pedestal and swung it experimentally. "Looks like we're supposed to hit those targets," he said, pointing to glowing orbs hovering above the floor. Each orb pulsed with light, moving unpredictably around the room. Without waiting for confirmation, Liam charged forward. Swinging the rod with all his might, he managed to strike one orb, which shattered into sparks but missed the others entirely. Frustrated, he growled under his breath and swung harder, only to lose his balance and stumble. The aliens watched silently, their glowing eyes betraying no emotion. When Liam finally gave up, sweat dripping down his face, they simply moved on to the next person. Olivia was next. She approached the task with her usual determination, studying the orb's movements carefully before making her move. Unlike Liam, she didn't rely on brute force. Instead, she used precision, timing her strikes perfectly. One by one, the orbs exploded into bursts of light, earning her nods of approval from the aliens. But when an orb suddenly changed direction mid-flight, catching her off guard, Olivia cursed loudly and threw down the rod in frustration. Her temper flared, and she stormed to the side of the room, muttering about how unfair the test was. Daniel stepped up after Olivia, his calm demeanor contrasting sharply with her outburst. He handled the rod with practiced ease, his years of mechanical work giving him steady hands. He struck several orbs in quick succession, his movements fluid and efficient. The aliens seemed pleased, their glowing symbols shifting in patterns that suggested satisfaction. Yet even Daniel couldn't keep up with the orb's increasing speed. Eventually he too had to step back, breathing heavily but still composed. Then it was Emma's turn. She hesitated for a moment, glancing at the rod as if unsure whether to pick it up. When she finally did, her grip was loose, almost hesitant. She swung once, barely grazing an orb, and then stopped altogether. The aliens exchanged glances, their symbols flickering with what could only be interpreted as disdain. "Weak link," one of them repeated, its voice echoing coldly in everyone's minds. Emma didn't react. She simply lowered the rod and stepped aside, allowing the aliens to move on to the next challenge. Daniel noticed the way her jaw tightened. Ever so slightly, but otherwise she showed no sign of frustration or embarrassment. It was as though she had expected this outcome all along. The second trial involved solving a complex puzzle. A large floating grid appeared in the center of the room, its squares shifting and rearranging themselves constantly. The goal, as far as anyone could tell, was to align the squares into a specific pattern. Liam tried first, his big hands swiping clumsily at the grid. He grew increasingly agitated as the squares refused to cooperate, eventually slamming his fist against the nearest wall in frustration. Olivia took over, her sharp mind quickly identifying patterns within the chaos. She worked methodically, her fingers darting across the grid. For a while, it seemed like she might succeed, but just as the final pieces began to fall into place, the entire grid reset itself, scattering the squares randomly again. Olivia let out an exasperated groan and stepped back, glaring at the aliens. As if daring them to say something, Daniel stepped up next, his logical approach helping him make progress where the others had failed. He focused intently, ignoring distractions and working through each possibility systematically. But even he struggled as the grid became more chaotic, its movements faster and less predictable. After several minutes, he admitted defeat, shaking, his head in disbelief. Once again, it was Emma's turn. She approached the grid slowly, her expression unreadable. She stared at it for a long time, her fingers hovering just above the surface without touching it. The aliens grew impatient, their symbols flashing erratically. Finally, Emma reached out and tapped one square, then another, and another. To everyone's surprise, the grid began to stabilize, the squares locking into place with each tap. But just as it seemed she might solve the puzzle, she stopped abruptly, stepping away as if she had lost interest. The aliens' disappointment was palpable. They dismissed her outright, their glowing eyes narrowing in contempt. Yet Emma didn't seem bothered. She returned to her spot quietly, her calm demeanor unshaken. As the day wore on, the trials grew more challenging. One involved navigating a maze filled with obstacles that shifted every few seconds. Another required the humans to communicate telepathically with the aliens, deciphering their cryptic symbols and responding correctly. Liam struggled with both, his frustration boiling over until he refused to participate altogether. Olivia fared better, using her wit and resourcefulness to overcome some of the obstacles, but her fiery temper often got the best of her, leading to mistakes. Daniel excelled in tasks requiring physical endurance and problem-solving, earning praise from the aliens, though he too hit limits he couldn't surpass. Throughout it all, Emma continued to falter. She tripped over obstacles in the maze, misinterpreted alien symbols, and froze during simulated threats. The aliens mocked her openly, their voices cold and dismissive. Unworthy, they declared repeatedly, as though trying to break her spirit. But Emma remained unfazed, her quiet composure never wavering. That night, back in their quarters, tensions ran high. Liam paced angrily, muttering under his breath about how pointless the tests were. Olivia sat on her bed, scribbling notes furiously in a small notebook she had brought with her. Daniel leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching Emma closely. She sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the glowing symbols projected onto the ceiling, her expression thoughtful. "You know," Daniel said finally, breaking the silence, "you've got them fooled." Emma glanced up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "They think you're weak because you don't fight back or try to prove yourself. But I've seen the way you watch everything like you're learning something they don't want you to." Emma smiled faintly, her gaze returning to the symbols above. "Maybe I am," she said softly. "But sometimes pretending to be weak is the strongest thing you can do." Daniel frowned, intrigued but still confused. "Why play along? Why not show them what you're really capable of?" "Because they're watching us," Emma replied. Every move we make, every word we say, they're analyzing it. If I acted differently, they'd focus on me instead of letting me observe them. Right now, they think I'm harmless. That gives me an advantage? Her words lingered in the air, leaving Daniel to ponder their meaning. He realized that Emma wasn't just surviving the trials. She was studying them, piecing together information that might help them escape. While the others reacted impulsively, driven by fear or pride, Emma stayed calm. Biding her time. The next day brought a new challenge, one that would test the humans in ways none of them anticipated. The aliens announced that the final trial would involve a creature known as the Apex Hunter. Standing in the center of the room, they summoned the beast, and the humans watched in stunned silence as it materialized before them. The Apex Hunter was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its sleek, metallic body shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and its red eyes burned with predatory intensity. It moved with terrifying grace, its every step radiating power. The aliens explained that the Apex Hunter would hunt down one of the humans, eliminating them as part of the evaluation process. They claimed it would be a fair assessment of survival instincts. Liam paled at the sight of the creature, backing away instinctively. Olivia clenched her fists, her sharp tongue firing off insults at the aliens for putting them in such a situation. Daniel prepared himself mentally, ready to face the beast head-on. But to everyone's shock, the Apex Hunter bypassed all of them and headed straight for Emma's room. Instead of panicking, Emma stood calmly by her door, staring directly at the massive predator. The aliens watched eagerly, expecting her swift demise. But something unexpected happened. The Apex Hunter stopped just inches away from her, let out a low growl, and retreated. It refused to enter her space, much to the confusion of both the aliens and her fellow captives. Daniel couldn't believe what he had seen. What made Emma different? Why did the most fearsome hunter refuse to attack her? That night, Emma finally opened up to Daniel. Sitting alone in her room, she admitted that she wasn't truly weak. Rather, she had been playing along, biding her time to understand the aliens' motives. She revealed that she had spent years studying ancient texts and patterns in nature, teaching herself how to read subtle cues and anticipate outcomes. Her apparent failures were deliberate distractions, allowing her to observe the aliens' behavior and learn their weaknesses. She explained that the Apex Hunter's refusal to harm her likely stemmed from her ability to project a sense of calm, authority, and energy the creature instinctively recognized and respected. The revelation that Emma had been playing a long game came as both a relief and a challenge for Daniel. He couldn't help but admire her patience and intelligence, qualities that had gone unnoticed by everyone, including the aliens. But now, with the Apex Hunter's strange reaction to her fresh in their minds, they knew they had to act quickly. If the aliens realized Emma wasn't as weak as she appeared, it could mean disaster for all of them. That night, after Emma shared her insights with Daniel, the two began working on a plan. They couldn't risk speaking openly about it. The aliens monitored everything. Instead, they communicated through subtle gestures and whispered conversations when no one else was around. By morning, they had a rough idea of how to sabotage the ship and escape. Emma explained that the aliens' technology relied heavily on patterns she had spent years studying back on Earth. She believed she could disrupt those patterns if given access to the ship's control systems. The problem was getting close enough without raising suspicion. The aliens rarely allowed the humans near sensitive areas, and even then, they were always watched closely. We need a distraction, Daniel said quietly as they sat together in the corner of their shared quarters. Something big enough to draw their attention away from you while you work. Emma nodded thoughtfully. Liam and Olivia can handle that part. They're loud and unpredictable, perfect for causing chaos. Daniel smirked at the thought of Liam shouting insults at the aliens or Olivia peppering them with endless questions. It wouldn't take much to irritate their captors, especially since the aliens already seemed annoyed by the humans' constant bickering. Still, he worried about putting their companions in harm's way. "Are you sure they'll be okay?" he asked. "They'll have to be," Emma replied firmly. "We don't have another option." The next day, tensions aboard the ship reached a boiling point. The aliens had grown increasingly impatient with the humans, particularly Liam and Olivia, whose refusal to follow orders tested the limits of alien tolerance. When the group was summoned for yet another round of trials, Liam immediately started complaining. "This is ridiculous!" he shouted, throwing up his hands. "Why are we doing this?" "You've already decided we're worthless." The aliens responded with cold indifference, their glowing symbols shifting erratically. One of them stepped forward, its voice echoing menacingly in everyone's minds. "Silence, or face consequences." But Liam wasn't done. "Consequences? What are you going to do? Send your pet monster after us again?" "Oh, wait, it didn't even try to hurt Emma." His words drew murmurs of agreement from Olivia, who crossed her arms and glared at the aliens. "He's right, this whole thing is a farce." "You're not evaluating us, you're just playing games?" The alien symbols flared angrily, and for a moment it seemed like they might retaliate. But then, as if deciding the humans weren't worth the effort, they turned their backs and gestured for the group to proceed with the trial. Emma exchanged a glance with Daniel. This was their chance. Later that afternoon, the humans were led into a large chamber filled with intricate machinery. The walls pulsed faintly, emitting a low hum that vibrated through the floor. Emma recognized the room immediately. It was the heart of the ship's operations. If she could access the central console, she might be able to disable key systems and create an opening for escape. As planned, Liam and Olivia took center stage, launching into a heated argument loud enough to attract the aliens' full attention. Liam accused Olivia of hogging resources during previous trials, while Olivia shot back that Liam's clumsiness had cost them valuable points. Their voices echoed through the chamber, drawing several aliens toward them, while the aliens focused on breaking up the fight. Emma slipped away, moving silently toward the console. Daniel stayed close behind, ready to intervene if anyone noticed her absence. His heart pounded as he scanned the room, keeping watch for any sign of trouble. Emma reached the console and knelt down, her fingers hovering over the glowing controls. She studied the patterns carefully, her mind racing as she pieced together the sequence needed to disrupt the ship's systems. Time seemed to slow as she worked, each movement deliberate and precise. Behind her, Daniel clenched his fists, resisting the urge to rush her along. Suddenly, one of the aliens turned its head, its glowing eyes locking onto Emma. For a split second, panic flickered across Daniel's face, but Emma didn't miss a beat. Without looking up, she spoke softly, her voice calm and steady. "I'm just trying to understand," she said, her tone almost apologetic. "I thought maybe I could learn something useful." The alien hesitated, its symbols flickering uncertainly. To Daniel's amazement, it didn't approach her. Instead, it turned its attention back to Liam and Olivia, who were now yelling so loudly that their voices reverberated off the walls. Breathing a silent sigh of relief, Emma returned to her task. Her fingers moved faster now, tapping out commands. That caused the console to emit a soft whirring sound. The lights dimmed slightly, and the hum of the ship's engines faltered. She had done it. The system was destabilizing, but the aliens weren't oblivious for long. One of them noticed the change in the room and let out a sharp, metallic screech. The others followed suit, their symbols flashing wildly as they scrambled to assess the situation. Realizing what had happened, they turned their gaze toward Emma, their glowing eyes narrowing in fury. "Run!" Daniel shouted, grabbing Emma's arm and pulling her to her feet. The four humans bolted for the nearest exit, dodging the aliens' attempts to stop them. Liam and Olivia led the charge, using their size and speed to clear a path. Behind them, the ship trembled violently as its systems continued to fail. Alarms blared, filling the air with a deafening cacophony. Emma glanced over her shoulder, her expression grim. "We don't have much time. The ship won't hold together for long." "Then let's hope we find an escape pod before it tears itself apart," Daniel replied, his grip tightening on her hand. They raced through the corridors, guided by Emma's knowledge of the ship's layout. She had memorized every detail, during her observations, mapping out potential routes in her mind. Despite the chaos unfolding around them, she remained focused, her calm demeanor inspiring confidence in the others. Finally, they reached a small docking bay where several escape pods were stored. The aliens were hot on their heels, their angry cries echoing through the halls. Daniel shoved open the hatch of the nearest pod and ushered everyone inside. As the last person climbed aboard, Emma hit the launch button, sealing the hatch just as the aliens arrived. The pod shot forward, detaching from the mothership with a jolt. Through the viewport, the humans watched as the alien vessel shuddered violently, its sleek surface cracking under the strain. A bright flash illuminated the darkness as the ship exploded, sending shockwaves rippling through space. For a moment, no one spoke. They simply stared at the wreckage, their hearts still racing from the narrow escape. Then Liam let out a shaky laugh, breaking the silence. "Well," he said, leaning back in his seat, "that was insane." Olivia rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a grin. Understatement of the century. Emma leaned against the wall of the pod, her shoulders slumping slightly as the adrenaline faded. Daniel looked at her, his expression softening. "You did good," he said quietly. "Better than good." She smiled faintly, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "It wasn't easy. And I couldn't have done it without you, or—" "No arguments here," Liam chimed in, pointing a thumb at himself. "You'd be lost without my charm and wit." Olivia snorted. "More like your stubbornness and bad timing?" Their banter brought a sense of normalcy to the surreal situation, easing the tension that had built up over days of captivity. As the escape pod drifted through the void, carrying them back toward Earth, the humans allowed themselves a brief moment of relief. But Emma knew their journey wasn't over. While they had escaped the aliens, questions remained. Why had the apex hunter refused to attack her? What had the aliens truly wanted from humanity? And most importantly, would they come back? For now, though, she chose to focus on the present. They were alive, free, and heading home. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them, one step at a time. The escape pod drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its small engines humming softly as it carried the four humans back toward Earth. Inside, the mood was a mix of relief and exhaustion. Liam stretched out on the narrow bench, his arms folded behind his head, while Olivia sat cross-legged, scribbling notes in her notebook. Daniel leaned against the wall, his eyes fixed on the viewport as he watched the stars streak past. Emma, meanwhile, sat quietly in the corner, her gaze distant but thoughtful. Though they had escaped the alien ship, none of them felt truly safe yet. The aliens' motives remained unclear, and the memory of their cold, calculating stares lingered in everyone's minds. Emma knew better than anyone that the aliens wouldn't give up so easily. They had invested too much time and effort into capturing humans to let them go without a fight. Still, for now, they were out of immediate danger, and that was enough. "Do you think they'll follow us?" Liam asked suddenly, breaking the silence. His voice was casual, but there was an edge of unease beneath it. Emma glanced at him before answering. "It's possible," she said simply. "They're persistent, if not more than that. But we have a head start, and Earth has defenses they might not be prepared for." Liam frowned, clearly unsatisfied with her vague response. "Defenses? Like what? A few fighter jets and some outdated satellites?" "Better than nothing," Olivia interjected, snapping her notebook shut. "Besides, humanity has dealt with worse threats before. We adapt, we survive." Her words carried a note of defiance, but Daniel noticed the slight tremor in her hand as she tucked the notebook into her bag. He knew she was trying to sound confident, but the truth was, none of them really believed Earth was ready for an alien invasion. They had seen firsthand how advanced the aliens' technology was, how effortlessly they had captured and tested the humans. If they decided to return, Earth would be in serious trouble. "We need to warn them," Emma said finally, her voice steady but firm. "If we can get back and share what we've learned, maybe we can prepare. Maybe we can find a way to stop." Daniel nodded slowly. "She's right. We can't just sit here and hope they leave us alone. They came looking for something, and whatever it is, they won't stop until they find it." "But what are they looking for?" Liam asked, sitting up straighter. I mean, why go through all this trouble? Why kidnap random people from some tiny town and put them through those ridiculous tests? Emma hesitated, choosing her words carefully. I don't know for sure, she admitted, but I think it's about survival for them, not us. Something's wrong back where they come from, their planet, their resources. Something isn't working anymore, and they're searching for new ways to fix it. That still doesn't explain why they picked us, Olivia pointed out. Out of everyone on Earth, why Ridgewood? Why us? Maybe because we're expendable, Daniel suggested grimly. If they wanted to test humans, they'd pick somewhere quiet, somewhere no one would notice if a few people disappeared. Somewhere like Ridgewood? The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. None of them liked the idea of being considered disposable, but deep down they knew it made sense. The aliens hadn't cared about their lives. They had treated them like lab rats, poking and prodding until they got the results they wanted. The thought sent a chill down Emma's spine, but she pushed it aside. There was no point dwelling on it now. Hours passed as the escape pod continued its journey. The humans took turns keeping watch, though there wasn't much to see beyond the endless expanse of stars. Occasionally, one of them would try to make conversation, but the topics always circled back to the same questions. What did the aliens want? Would they come back? And what could humanity do to protect itself? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the blue-green orb of Earth appeared in the distance. Relief washed over them as they realized they were close to home. But even as the planet grew larger in the viewport, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were far from over. When the pod entered Earth's atmosphere, alarms blared inside the cabin. The sudden jolt woke everyone from their half-sleep, and for a terrifying moment it seemed like the pod might break apart under the strain. Flames licked at the viewport as heat enveloped the craft, but then, just as quickly as it began, the turbulence subsided. The pod slowed, guided by Earth's gravity, until it landed with a soft thud in a field outside Ridgewood. The hatch opened automatically, letting in fresh air and the sounds of chirping birds. For a moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, they climbed out, blinking in the bright sunlight. It felt surreal to be standing on solid ground again, surrounded by familiar sights and smells. Home had never seemed so precious, but their joy was short-lived. As they walked toward town, they noticed something strange. Everything was eerily quiet. No cars drove down the streets, no children played in the yards, and the shops were all closed. It was as though the entire town had been abandoned overnight. What's going on? Liam muttered, his voice tinged with unease. Where is everybody? Emma's stomach tightened as she scanned the empty streets. She didn't have an answer, but she suspected the worst. We need to check the town hall, she said, her tone urgent. If anyone's left, that's where they'll be. The others nodded, and together they made their way to the center of town. The town hall was locked, but Daniel managed to pry open a window and climb inside. Moments later, he returned with news that confirmed their fears. They're gone, he said grimly. Everyone's gone. Emma felt a lump rise in her throat. Did the aliens take them? I don't think so, Daniel replied, shaking his head. There's no sign of a struggle. No damage. It's like they just left. Olivia frowned, stepping forward. Left? Where would they go? And why? No one had an answer. The mystery only deepened when they discovered a single sheet of paper pinned to the bulletin board inside the town hall. On it was written a single sentence in bold block letters, asterisk, asterisk, they know you're coming. Asterisk, asterisk, the message sent chills down their spines. Whoever or whatever had taken the townspeople had known the humans would return. But how? And why leave such a cryptic warning? This doesn't make any sense, Liam said, running a hand through his hair. Who wrote this, and who's they? Emma studied the note carefully, her mind racing. It's a message from someone who wants us to know they're watching, she said slowly. But whether it's meant to scare us or warn us, I'm not sure. Well, whoever it is, they're messing with the wrong people, Olivia snapped, her frustration boiling over. We just survived an alien spaceship, for crying out loud. We can handle this. Emma nodded, though her expression remained troubled. We'll figure it out, she said firmly. But first, we need to regroup and gather supplies. If the aliens are coming back, and I think they are, we'll need to be ready. Over the next few days, the four humans worked tirelessly to prepare for the unknown. They scavenged food, water, and tools from nearby homes and businesses, setting up a makeshift base in the town hall. Emma spent hours poring over maps and documents, trying to piece together clues about the disappearance of the townspeople. Daniel helped fortify the building, reinforcing doors and windows to make it harder for intruders to break in. Meanwhile, Liam and Olivia patrolled the area, keeping an eye out for anything unusual. Despite their efforts, the tension between them grew. Liam's impatience clashed with Olivia's sharp tongue, leading to frequent arguments that left everyone on edge. Even Daniel, usually calm and level-headed, found himself snapping at the others more often than he cared to admit. Only Emma seemed unaffected, her focus unwavering as she continued to plan and strategize. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma called everyone together. "We can't keep waiting around," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "If the aliens are coming, we need to take the fight to them. Sitting here isn't going to solve anything." "And how exactly do you propose we do that?" Olivia asked skeptically. "Last time I checked, we don't have a spaceship." "No," Emma agreed, "but we have knowledge. We've seen their technology, their patterns, their weaknesses. If we can use that against them, we might stand a chance." Daniel nodded slowly, catching on to her train of thought. "You're talking about setting a trap?" "Exactly," Emma said. "We lure them here, to Ridgewood, and hit them where it hurts, use their own tactics against them." Liam raised an eyebrow. "And what happens if your plan doesn't work? What if they wipe us out instead?" "Then at least we'll have tried," Emma replied simply. "Isn't that better than doing nothing?" Her words struck a chord, and after a long pause, the others reluctantly agreed. They spent the rest of the night finalizing the details, each person contributing their skills to the plan. By morning, they were as ready as they could be. As they stood outside the town hall, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emma felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead would be dangerous, perhaps even deadly, but they weren't alone anymore. Together they had faced the impossible and survived. Whatever came next, they would face it the same way, united, determined, and unyielding. And deep down, Emma knew that was the strongest weapon they had. The days that followed were a blur of preparation and anticipation. Emma, Daniel, Liam, and Olivia worked tirelessly to transform Ridgewood into a trap for the aliens. Using what little they had scavenged from the town, they rigged up makeshift defenses, tripwires strung across streets, hidden pitfalls and alleys, and decoy signals designed to mimic advanced human technology. Emma took charge of the planning, her calm demeanor masking the urgency she felt. She knew this was their only chance if the aliens returned. They had to be ready. Daniel handled the physical work, fortifying buildings and setting up traps that would slow the aliens down. His hands moved with precision as he welded metal scraps together and reinforced doors with wooden beams. Liam contributed his strength, hauling supplies and helping Daniel build barricades. Though his temper flared occasionally, he threw himself into the task with surprising determination. Olivia, meanwhile, focused on gathering information. She scoured the town for anything useful: old radios, computers, even discarded phones, and pieced them together in an attempt to create a communication system. If the aliens arrived, she wanted to be able to call for help, no matter how slim the odds. Emma spent most of her time studying maps and notes, refining their strategy. She replayed every moment aboard the alien ship in her mind, analyzing their behavior, their patterns, and their weaknesses. The apex hunter's refusal to attack her still puzzled her, but she suspected it had something to do with her ability to remain calm under pressure. Whatever it was, she intended to use it to their advantage. As the sun set on the final day of preparation, the group gathered in the town hall. The air was thick with tension, each person lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Emma broke the silence. "We've Done everything we can, she said, her voice steady but soft. Now we wait. Liam shifted uncomfortably, his fingers tapping against the table. And if they don't come, what then? They'll come, Emma replied without hesitation. They didn't go through all that trouble just to give up? This isn't over. Her certainty seemed to settle over the room, quieting any lingering doubts. They ate a simple meal together, canned food and stale bread, and tried to rest, though sleep was elusive. Outside, the wind howled through empty streets, carrying with it an eerie stillness that made the night feel heavier than usual. It happened just before dawn. A low rumble shook the ground, waking everyone instantly. Emma was the first to react, grabbing a flashlight and heading for the window. Through the dim light of early morning, she saw a massive alien ship descending from the sky, its sleek surface glinting faintly as it hovered above the town square. It was larger than the one they had escaped from, its presence dominating. "The horizon, they're here," she whispered, her voice tight with both fear and resolve. The others joined her at the window, their faces pale but determined. Daniel gripped a crowbar tightly, his knuckles white. Liam cracked his knuckles, flexing his fists as if preparing for a fight. Olivia adjusted the straps of her backpack, which contained the jury-rigged communication device she had built. None of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. The aliens disembarked quickly, their glowing forms stepping onto Earth soil with an almost ceremonial grace. They spread out, scanning the area methodically. It was clear they expected resistance. They carried weapons now, sleek devices that hummed with energy. But instead of attacking immediately, they paused, their symbols flickering as if communicating silently among themselves. Emma signaled for the others to stay back while she stepped outside. Alone. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to breathe deeply, maintaining the same calm composure that had unnerved the aliens before. As she walked toward the center of town, the aliens turned their attention to her, their glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "You've returned," one of them said, its voice resonating in her mind. "Why?" Emma stopped a few feet away, meeting their gaze steadily. "Because you won't stop until you get what you want," she replied. "And because I'm not afraid of you." For a moment, the aliens seemed taken aback. Then, as if testing her, they raised their weapons, aiming directly at her. But Emma didn't flinch. Instead, she raised her hands slowly, palms open in a gesture of peace or, perhaps, defiance. "I know why you're here," she continued, her voice clear and unwavering. "Your world is dying and you need ours. But you're wrong if you think taking it will solve your problems." The aliens exchanged glances, their symbols shifting rapidly. One of them stepped forward, towering over her. "You are weak," it declared, echoing the words it had used before. "Unworthy of survival." Emma smiled faintly, a spark of challenge in her eyes. "Then why haven't you killed me yet?" The alien hesitated, its weapon lowering ever so slightly. Behind it, the apex hunter emerged from the shadows, its metallic body shimmering ominously. It prowled forward, its red eyes locking onto Emma. For a moment, it seemed like it might attack, but then, just as before, it stopped short, letting out a low growl before retreating. The aliens' confusion was palpable. They couldn't understand why the creature refused to obey their commands, why it treated Emma with what could only be described as respect. Emma seized the opportunity. "You underestimate us," she said, addressing the aliens directly. "You see our weakness, but you don't see our strength. You think you can take what you need by force, but you'll fail. Humanity doesn't give up, not when it matters." Her words hung in the air, cutting through the tension like a blade. The aliens faltered, their confidence shaken for the first time. Sensing their uncertainty, Emma pressed her advantage. "If you leave now, we'll let you go. But if you stay—" She let the threat trail off, her gaze sweeping over the traps and defenses hidden throughout the town. "If you stay, you'll regret it." The aliens exchanged more symbols, their movements frantic. Clearly, they hadn't anticipated such resistance. After several tense moments, one of them finally spoke. "This is not over," it said, its voice cold but laced with doubt. "We will return." With that, they turned and retreated to their ship, moving quickly but not without hesitation. The apex hunter followed, its glowing eyes lingering on Emma for a moment longer before disappearing. Inside. Moments later, the ship ascended into the sky, leaving behind only silence. Back in the town hall, the humans exhaled collectively, the weight of their victory sinking in. Liam sank into a chair, running a hand over his face. "Did we really just scare them off?" he asked, half laughing, half disbelieving. "For now," Emma replied, her tone cautious. "But they'll be back, and next time they'll be prepared." "So we keep preparing too," Daniel said firmly. "We've shown them we're not easy targets. That buys us time." Olivia nodded, already pulling out her notebook. "And, maybe we can find allies. People who can help us fight back." Emma looked at each of them, pride swelling in her chest. They had faced impossible odds and won not because they were stronger or smarter than the aliens, but because they had stood together. Strength wasn't about power or aggression. It was about unity, determination, and the courage to stand up for what mattered. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, casting golden light over Ridgewood, Emma allowed herself a small smile. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time in days she felt hopeful. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, and that, she realized, was the greatest strength of all.